What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast episode 310. I am your host, Ainsley Bowden, and we have a little bit of a different show for you here today because Mr. Hogue went on a surprise trip courtesy of Mrs. Hogue. And so you are going to get, or our audience is going to get a duo show today. So for those looking forward to lots of Hogue, I apologize. He apologizes. We'll be back in force next week. But instead of getting a guest and, kind of going through that, we figured, why not? Travis and I can rock a duo show. We both reviewed Vessel of Hatred. We obviously going to be talking about that a lot today. And we've got some other big things to talk about anyway. So we are here. We're ready. It's a nice Sunday morning. It's Halo World Championship weekend, so I'm hyped. And I've got Mr. Tie Guy Travis ready to roll. Fresh off some new Elgato problems, but he's here. He's good to go. How we doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's a good weekend. Ready to play more Diablo when the game comes out, and
For real.
happy to have a more intimate show with you, Ains.
Yes.
I'm always
looking
to get a little more personal, a little.
Nobody wants that on this panel, or nobody. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. So we've got, So first off, like I said, Hogue's traveling. Obviously, he'll be back next week. We've got Vessel of Hatred to talk about. We can break down all the details. So because it's a two-person show, we're going to be going back and forth chat. Hopefully get involved. Please ask your questions, do whatever. We'll pull up more of the kind of conversation with our live audience today because we'll obviously be able to do that a little more with only two of us. We're also going to be breaking down some of the new seasons going on, some of the other new games coming out, a lot of huge releases, which, I know we've talked about for October. We've got Ubisoft in financial trouble, looking kind of shaky. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We've got Starfield Shattered Space has released to a far lower reception than I think anyone thought it was going to release. So we'll talk a little bit about that and just Bethesda in general. But yeah, man, it's going to be a good show. I'm looking forward to it. And before we get to any of that, of course, we'll catch up on our usual kind of kick off the show with Mr. Googleman, of course.
Googleman81 writes, Vessel of Hatred, is that a person or like a lamp or what? Anyway, I will not be watching Coraline again for Halloween. That film messed me up good.
Coraline's awesome, man. Great movie. You ever seen it?
No, not familiar.
No, it's like a what's the animation type for that?
Claymation?
Not stop animation. Someone can tell me
Stop motion?
Maybe I can't remember exactly. It came out a good while ago. We watched that when our kids were younger. So
is it a Tim Burton movie?
No, but it's reminiscent. It's a little dark, it's the story of a little girl called Coraline, and yeah, it's really good. A stop motion. Thank you. But it came out maybe 15 years ago, something like that. It's been a little while, but great movie, man. Classic for sure. So anyway, cool. Googleman, thank you for kicking us off. And then two other legends in the house starting us off fresh. Vintage Willow is back, gifting 5 season gaming memberships right off the start of the show. And Debbie W, not to be outdone, doing the same. Thank you guys so much.
Debbie Dubs.
Yeah, as always, I can't say it enough. Just thank you. Yeah, you'll notice some new graphics. This is not the prettiest background, I realize. So we're actually going through a rebranding here at Season Gaming. I think I mentioned that. So we're, there's a lot to it, a lot of pieces that have to go on, especially for a small independent site like us. So we're slowly migrating to a new look, new feel. So more to come. I just threw this together this morning because having the two people, panel is a little different. So anyway, that's what you got for today. So let's get into it, man. Before we get to Vessel of Hatred, I want to talk about a few other games and things kind of going on and things I'm trying to catch up on because really this week and tomorrow, actually. So if you're not aware, Vessel of Hatred basically launches tomorrow night if you're in the US. So check your world launch times, but it launches at, I think, 7 p.m. Eastern, which is 4 p.m. for you.
Dang.
Yeah. So it's after tomorrow night, I'm going to be back in at full force because I'm addicted. But other than that, there's some other things I've been trying to catch up on. In particular, I've been playing a little more Astrobot. So I couldn't remember. Are you into Astrobot at all? Not your type of thing?
No, I was not really into Astrobot 1, but I do plan on playing the sequel because people say it's good. So I do want to play it.
Okay.
First one didn't really hit me too well.
The VR one or the one that came with the PS5?
both.
I would say that if you don't like either of those, I don't know if this one's going to change that, but it is.
Like I remember the VR one. They're both of the games that came out were sort of like demos of the platforms that they came out on, right? Like they were proof of concepts on like what they could do. The thing that makes me a little bit more excited about this one is that this is like a full-on game, right? It's not just like a buy-in or a package in with a new piece of hardware. And so I mean, I'll play it eventually. I'm still working through Star Wars, man. It's gonna take me forever to get through that game.
Yeah, over here it's a big game. We'll talk about a little bit about that too in a second. But yeah, Astrobot, if you're obviously into 3D platformers, I think everything that's been said about it, has already gotten anyone to this point of wanting to try it. But yeah, it's really fun. It's really well implemented. I'm looking forward to spending more time with it. I think the biggest problem right now is time, which we keep talking about. Outlaws is an interesting one. So I don't know about you or anyone else on the panel. And by the way, let me get Gamefire's comment. He says, at least no candy corn on the screen. So
Hogue himself also blessed us with a comment, by the way, over in his channel.
Oh,
you're gonna hate it.
Oh, I'm not even reading that one. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
On the candy corn front, no joke, I actually was looking up to buy candy corn this week, and I found a brand that is not just artificial colors and corn syrup and garbage. So I'm trying to find it. It's literally sold out. I cannot find it.
Wait, well, okay, what is candy corn without all of that stuff? Because my understanding is that's just what it is. Yeah.
My biggest problem is I love candy corn, but let's face it, it's just a bag of chemicals, right? And I'm also like health conscious, so I don't want to eat that, generally speaking.
But what is candy corn without that? Like there's
I mean, I can at least get like pure sugar and not just chemicals, you know what I mean? Like normal sugar, real sugar or something,
I see. I don't think you're gonna feel like it's the same thing, but
we'll see.
Like, I gave Dee a vegan gummy worm. She likes, gummy candies, and she was like, I found a place. I was like, oh look, the vegan gummy worms.
Vegan,
that's interesting. Well, yeah,
like rice syrup or something.
Gummies made from bones of animals. But yeah, like so it's like, oh, vegan gummy worm, maybe it's better for you, and it has none of the elasticity of gummy. When you bite into a gummy and you kind of like pull on it. None of that. You bite into it, it's like biting into an apricot. Like it's just like fruit. And the look on her face, the disappointment and like the betrayal. She was like, "This betrayed me." It looked so much like a gummy worm, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
So I think you might have a similar experience with candy corn. Is my point.
Yeah, I know. I want to try it. I tried to order it. I couldn't. I will. We'll eat some candy corn on stream again this year. Hogue, I hope you're enjoying your weekend away. He said Astrobot is tremendously fine, and he said something else that I can't read. It's not English. That's what he said. Yeah,
wow.
I don't know.
Yeah, I remember he was less high on it than the reviewers. I think his problem is all of the PlayStation advertising, right? Which that is going to annoy me as somebody who gets annoyed by our console controllers, all of them.
Our console controllers.
Our console boys, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo.
Oh, okay. I thought you literally meant controllers. I was like, what?
No. Powers that be, the big three, annoy me all they do.
I want to talk about Outlaws too, though. You mentioned that, and I don't know about you, but we heard this from Alex, who reviewed it for us, of course, and it's starting to feel like that's a game that was, and you and I have seen this many times. It feels like it's a game that was critically ruined by its review period, because those codes came in late. It came in real hot. A lot of people rushed through it. As we've already discussed on the show, it felt like seems like I haven't played it. Seems like the first 5 to 10 whatever hours are a little rough, kind of force you into some things maybe that aren't that fun. And so it feels like people didn't really just get to sit down and enjoy the Star Wars universe aspect of the game, which I think is really the core selling point of Outlaws, of being in that Star Wars universe to a degree. That's what I'm seeing more and more as the weeks go by. And I'm seeing more and more people, at least on my feed and the people I talk to, that are saying they really, really love this game. Like it's really good. And it just seems counter to what we saw coming out of the review period.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm also really enjoying it, but all the stuff that people said in the reviews that were like, the stealth's not that good. Like, it kind of feels like a generic Ubisoft stealth game with Star Wars slapped on. Like, I kind of agree with all of that. Like, I'm still really enjoying it as a big Star Wars fan, and because I'm not reviewing it. But honestly, if I were reviewing it, I probably wouldn't let it off the hook in the same way a lot of the reviewers do, because it does, like, its stealth is like nothing special. Its combat is just like you point a blaster and you hit the fire button. Like, it's not super groundbreaking by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
So
Yeah.
I think the thing it shines in is that it's just a Star Wars story with like goofy, quirky Star Wars characters and cheesy one-liners, and the villain is a big old crime lord douchebag, and like it feels nice for me, like, just to have a break from like the gritty realistic stories about revenge and stuff like that. This is just like a dumb heist that's like very lighthearted, and so I think it came to me at a very good time, and it's hitting well because I'm playing it slow over time. But honestly, I'm not at the end yet. I'm still kind of right in the middle, where I'm traveling between different planets and exploring and meeting all of the NPCs and stuff. But like, I get a lot of the criticisms, man. Like, I don't think that my time with it has erased a lot of those. So I don't know. I get their point. Like, the combat's not very good. The open world sections are like,
Okay.
riding on a speeder around Tatooine. There's really not a lot to look at, but I'm having fun with it.
Okay.
Maybe because I'm not looking at it like super critically right now. I'm just kind of doing it as a fun side game. But yeah, I get the criticisms. I think it's just divisive. It's like Starfield.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Eat Fresh Guy says, I'm going to keep saying it. I was out on the premise of Outlaws. A Star Wars game without the Force is completely uninteresting to me. That's all before my distrust of Ubisoft at large. So I'm one of those that likes the idea, and I know, again, divisive, but likes the idea of a non-Force
Me too.
focused or Jedi focused Star Wars. Like,
Yeah.
I want to explore more of that universe without always having to be the good guy Jedi.
Yeah, I agree. I think the idea of being like a Han Solo like scoundrel and going on heists is super appealing, and I think we explore a lot the game where you're using the Force and have a lightsaber and stuff. And if you want that game, you could go play Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order, Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, there's like a million games you could play. Yeah, and I don't think that we have that in Star Wars universe. So I think the idea is great. For me, Outlaws is a game that very badly needs a sequel, in the same way that Jedi Fallen Order did. Jedi Fallen Order was a very good first draft that you immediately like saw potential for a sequel, right? And I think the sequel really improved upon that formula. And so if they can do the same thing with Outlaws, I'll be stoked. But I totally get why you would have critiques about this game. It's not the premise so much as the implementation and some of the choices they made and some of the like really generic gameplay in particular that I think it's weakest. But yeah, I don't have a problem with the premise. I get why you would. If you don't want to not be a Jedi, I get it. But of course I do.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It occurred to me, Hogue is riding in the car, he said, by the way, so he's listening. We could have a whole 2-minute show about why Last Jedi is the best movie.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see him come in.
So what else you been playing, man? Anything, or just you still trying to catch up from Vessel of Hatred? You review land of somewhere else right now?
Yes. My next review is, I don't know if I can I think I could talk about it. Basically, I was about to review Veilguard, and then they needed me on something else, and they gave Veilguard to my amazing freelancer friend Leanna, who knows those games super well. And I'm on another game called Unknown 9 Awakening.
Yeah. Comes out 15th, I believe. I just talked about this one because it's got the actress from Yennefer in the Witcher TV show.
That's right. Yeah. She plays. Yeah. So I previewed this game maybe 9 months ago, I want to say. I think it was around GDC actually, so it might have been even more recently. But at the time, they had told me, "Yeah, we're coming out this summer or early fall," and I was like, "Really?" Because it didn't seem like they were ready for it. Like, the demo I played I actually didn't even play it. I watched it. It was a hands-off demo where they kind of showed the premise of the game, and they had done all this like super crazy world building stuff where they made like a comic book and they had plans to write novels, and they were like launching this whole like video game based universe.
Yeah.
But it's also the studio's first game, and the preview that I played, it had potential in terms of like its mechanics and doing kind of like a thing where you control people's minds and manipulate them and make them like kill their own friends and stuff like that. And it's kind of like a goofy, super power based combat. But it definitely felt like single A third person action game. You know,
okay.
kind of had a lot of room to grow. And so I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm interested in playing it. It's a new type of thing from a new studio, so I'm excited for it. But I have not started that review yet. I don't know what my rules of engagement are going to be once I do start reviewing it in terms of what I can talk about. But this will probably be the last time you hear me talk about it until the game is out or the embargo is lifted or whatever. But yeah, other than that, I just got done playing a ton of Diablo, and then have just since then been playing Outlaws at a very steady pace while I do other things and wait for my other reviews to come through. So
cool.
Unfortunately, not reviewing Dragon Age. Sorry, boys. We tried. We made a play.
That's a big one.
Didn't work out.
Yeah, that's definitely a big one. I'm excited about that one, though. Honestly, as someone who's excited about that and waited a long time for BioWare's next game, which, as we've discussed many times on this show, we hope kind of nails it. That's one I don't know if I'd want to review, because I want to be able to enjoy that at my own pace.
That's true.
And not kind of rush through it. So, so a couple things. I really like Halloween. It's my favorite time of the year. This fall season, my favorite holiday. So I'm kind of getting into some horror games here and there, and movies, of course. Finished casting of Frank Stone. I know Hogue and I talked about that one. Pretty good. The story's okay. I think they need to evolve the formula a little bit. I enjoyed it, but not as much as like Little Hope, and some of those other ones. Obviously, the Until Dawn remake just came out yesterday or 2 days ago, I think Friday. So I don't really know why that game needed a remake, but here we are. So you can kind of go back and play that one as well. And then on Tuesday, of course, we get Silent Hill 2, which we'll touch on a little bit later.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah. So, but I also wanted to shout out that this is a throwback to earlier this year, or maybe even late last year, but Metal Hellsinger was like a indie game that came out, kind of a unique vibe. Yeah. So the VR version just came out, I think Friday as well. At least it did on PSVR 2 and one other platform, maybe Quest. I've got to look, but super excited to jump into that too, because just playing that game in VR will be awesome with the music and everything else going on.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
The last thing I was going to mention is Call of Duty. So the latest season, or I should say the last season of Modern Warfare 3 is going on right now, and they've got a bunch of horror tie-ins. So there's horror maps, there's like trick or treat stuff going on in the game. They got zombie mode. They even brought in like stuff from Terrifier. You can be Art the Clown. You can be. They have like Smile 2 going on in the game. So just a cool kind of vibe. Even I've said a million times, not the biggest Call of Duty guy, but I like when games kind of play to the themes like that. Of the seasons, and give you just unique things to go into. So that's been a lot of fun as well.
What do you mean last season? Like they're moving on to the next Call of Duty?
Well, Black Ops 6 comes out later this month. So
and then they switch over to
Yeah, they have this not weird, but they have the hub thing with Call of Duty, right? So you can always play Warzone, and Warzone's tied into the hub. So like say you buy Art the Clown from Terrifier as a skin, right? You can use that in Modern Warfare 3 and 2. And then you can use it in Warzone even into the future, but it won't work in Black Ops 6.
Got it.
Which is kind of weird, you know what I mean? It's like the multiplayer is separate from Warzone. It's tied in partially together. So yeah. So anyway, but yeah, man, let's catch up on a couple more super chats real quick, and we will get into Vessel of Hatred conversation, because I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about that.
Yeah, we're excited.
Let me get off of this. Mr. Don Lionheart.
Don Lionheart, $5. He writes, Dragon Age is gold, baby. 3 celebration faces. Flying to Orlando. Wish me luck in the oncoming storm. Panel's looking a little small today. Bye, Dragon Age. You are a little bit more optimistic than I am, but I am still excited about that game.
Don is our resident Dragon Age fanatic. So he's the one who did the article you can check out about all the hilarious history of their trailers. He knows the lore inside and out. So he is over the moon about this game releasing. We actually joked what we were just talking about on the show. We joked about him reviewing it for us. And it's like, do you really want to? Because one, can you be critical about it? One. And two, do you want to rush through it? After waiting so long for the next Dragon Age, I don't really know if you want to do that. So, yeah, we'll see. But I'm happy for
Where
him
did he
that it's
land?
coming out.
Is he reviewing it?
Well, I don't even think we finalized the decision yet. So,
oh wow, still up in the air.
Yeah. Don, thank you, and be safe. Anyone down there actually in Florida, be safe because another hurricane's getting ready to come through, and it's looking spooky down there. So
spooky,
yeah. Christopher Jetser.
Christopher Jetser offers $5 on rights. Travis, you did a preview a while back for a Souls-like from a China dev, I think, called AI Limit. Reminded me of Code Vein. Is it still coming out? Yes, this you remember correctly. It is a Chinese developer. The game is called AI Limit. It's sort of a Souls-like with a very cool anime art style. The game is still coming out, so far as I know. The demo I played was a demo that I think they were going to make available to like everyone. It might have become available to everyone shortly after I reviewed it. I can't really recall, but my impression from that demo is that it was still a ways out from being completed. They had kind of like the fundamentals and the basics of combat and all that pretty much nailed down, but I was basically playing like the tutorial area, right, where you go and fight the first boss before you move on, and so I don't think there's I don't think they're near enough to where you're gonna like see that game come out even this year. I'd be kind of surprised if it came out this year, but yeah, it was an interesting one. My hope is that it'll be cool and that the art style is indicative that they're going to try new stuff. But my impression of the combat in the demo I played was that it sticks pretty close to the Souls-like formula without adding a ton that's new. And so that would be like my concern with that one, is that aside from the art style, that's just sort of like another Souls-like game, right?
Yeah. And just again, shout out in that vein. So thank you, Christopher, for the super chat. And don't forget to check out Anatria. Really fun Souls-like as well. Nice. We have one more super chat from Sandal.
Enchantment. Enchantment. Yeah.
What is that? I'm missing it.
Dragon Age reference, sir. Dragon Age Origins. Oh. And actually Sandal's profile pic is of our boy, the enchantment guy from Dragon Age Origins.
I haven't played Origins in a long time.
He is a dim fellow. He does not speak much, but when he does speak, he speaks of enchantments. And similar to Mass Effect, where everybody knows like the lines when you go and talk to your team members for like the 500th time.
Yeah.
And you say that Shepard, Rex, that whole thing. His is enchantment, and then if you say that you want enchantments, then he goes enchantment. He's very excited about it. So shout out to Sandal. Good reference. €2. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you. Let's see if they put that reference in the new one. That'd be funny.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. Let's go ahead and get into Vessel of Hatred. We'll be very clear, of course, no spoilers or anything like that. Both our reviews are out. Good day, sir.
I didn't even see.
I was at 8.5. I end up going with a 9, despite a few qualms, which I call out with the campaign portion of the expansion. But I think as a whole, when you take everything that's changing on tomorrow in the game and like what they've added to it, I'm super high on it. I saw you gave it an 8, so it's slightly lower than me.
Yeah, I had the same issues you did with the campaign. My other issue was just on like it feels a little light for a full-on expansion. Just in terms of like the amount of content that gets added and that sort of stuff. So I think all the changes they make to the meta are amazing. Like the new leveling system is such a good idea. I love that it's so much faster, and it'll probably make me a lot more likely to do seasonal characters because now it actually feels like it's attainable to get to the end game content. new changes to the sandbox and build crafting and rune words and all that stuff are all super cool. So I think the game just feels better in general. My problem really with the campaign is that there's kind of not a lot to it aside from a really cool end game activity. The campaign is, over in the blink of an eye, and doesn't really do what I think it needed to do in terms of bringing the story where we wanted it to go. The new character class is sick. Really had a good time with that. And probably will be playing that character class when I play the game again tomorrow. But yeah, really cool. I just my issue was just a little bit of a little limp in terms of content so far. I also really hate the Realm Walker activity. I think they're gonna have to change that like immediately. Yeah, it's like it's one of those activities that's arbitrarily time gated. Like if you fall around that big boy and if you get him to half health, then you just have to wait for him to get to wherever he was going to walk to before you can kill him. And I hate games like that where like you get kind of punished for being too good at doing damage to them, because if you do damage to them early on, then you just kind of have to chill and like watch them walk all the way to their resting place, and then you can kill them immediately once they get there. But the other parts of that activity are cool. Kevin and I were like following this guy around super slowly going, this is the seasonal activity, dude. Like people are just, I have a theory that is going to be like the first thing they change for the season. I bet you they're going to patch that.
Really?
Yeah. For the seasonal content, I think they're going to patch that up like super quick. I think they're going to, like, people are going to be like, please don't make me follow this guy around. They'll be like, all right. If you do damage to him, then you can just kill him on the spot.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. The season, as I called in my review, the season itself, Season of Hatred, is a little light, right? Really what you're getting into here is all the expansion content and the core game changes, which is, we should probably call out. So if you didn't check out our reviews, first of all, please do. But there's 3 kind of areas of updates here, right? You get the expansion, which has a bunch of stuff attached to it. You get the seasonal content, which Travis was just referring to, and then they're making foundational changes to the core of the game. So let's go through these, and anyone who's watching, who's getting ready to get into Vessel of Hatred or has any questions, just throw them up. I'll pull up questions. We're happy to answer them, because we've put a lot of time between the two of us into this expansion. It was a lot of things to do for that review period in a 9-day period, something like that. So Spiritborn, let's start with the class. I love this class. Love it. I think this will be my favorite class in the future. I've used all 5, of course. Druid I've gone back to, so I used Druid at the review period of the original game, and then I used Barbarian, and I kind of went through the other classes, and I ended up going back to Druid, who is my level 100 right now anyway. And that's always been my favorite. But Spiritborn is incredibly flexible. You can build it a tank, you can build it like a Diablo 3 monk. So if you want to go like just hand-to-hand craziness, you can do all these kind of crazy, interesting things. And most importantly is it's flexible in the sense of you can build it between the 4 spirit animals as at will. So you can do gorilla, centipede mix, jaguar. You can mix all 4. You can do all sorts of stuff. And I think
how do you pronounce that animal? The last
centipede?
One? The other one.
Gorilla?
The other one.
Jaguar?
Jaguar. Okay.
Why? Is that weird?
No, I don't think so. I think there's a bunch of ways to pronounce that, but if you go to the YouTube comments, apparently that's an insane way to pronounce it. So the way I pronounce that animal is jaguar, which
jaguar.
I pronounce it jaguar. But when I did my VO recording, everybody was like, that's a crazy way to pronounce that word. And then I pronounced it jaguar or jaguar, or however normal people say it. I don't know. I pronounce words weirdly. And then all the comments were like, you said jaguar. What is that? Like, just people in the comments like upset about it. I don't think there is a way to pronounce that animal without some segment of the population being upset at you. Like, go and look at the comments. Like, it's like a lot of people being like jaguar, like all upset at me, which I pronounced only for the benefit of the commenters. I don't even pronounce that word that way normally. To me, that word is pronounced jaguar. Why? Because I learned how to pronounce every animal name by watching Planet Earth and documentaries by That British guy. What's the dude's name?
David Attenborough.
David Attenborough taught me how to pronounce every animal name, which is why I pronounce sloth. People hate that.
Yeah, that is weird. I don't get sloth, but that's fine.
I pronounce that word sloth, and I pronounce jaguar that way, and people
I just say jaguar. It's easier to say to me.
Upset. Yeah, I know. I mean, look, when other people pronounce it that way, I don't like clutch my pearls. I'm just like, all right, you pronounce the word differently than I do.
Because you make it 2 syllables instead of 3, right? It's just easier. Jaguar versus jaguar.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, jaguar. Yeah. I don't look. David Attenborough was my father, so growing up, he taught me how to pronounce animal names. I don't know what you want from me. You know what I
mean? Shout out, by the way, to Shoes, who says the Jag, which is a reference to Top Gear, of course. So
yeah. It's also how he pronounces that word.
Yeah, probably. Yes, I've heard that. But yeah, man, I love this class. Love it. I'm actually doing a build video today I'll be working on it'll go live tomorrow for launch on a Jaguar build that you can do and really loved it. So but yeah, it's great, man. What'd you think? What'd you mix and match in your class build?
Yeah, the main class I played was or the main build in the Spiritborn class was Centipede.
Yep.
There's this really, really sick build that I got onto pretty early where you do lifesteal and it kind of keeps you alive constantly. It kind of reminds me of Diablo 3 where you like gained health by hitting things. It like you can basically build into that. I got a 2, what's the ancestral? I got a 2 ancestral perk unique drop like pretty early on that was max power. It was like right when I hit the end game, and it had a perk on it where all damage I take is applied to me as poison instead of direct damage.
Yep.
My poison resistance applies to that damage dealt to me, and I take 15% less damage when that happens. And so it basically made it so that like even if I was surrounded by super high level enemies taking a ton of damage, my health bottle would just be green, but I could just keep refilling it. It would never, I would never let it get to the bottom because I was always gaining health back faster than I was losing it. And then I had a ton of poison resistance. So like, even if I was taking a crap load of damage, like I was so resistant to poison, I basically became unkillable. So we were doing high level activities. Like, what's the activity where you unlock different world tiers? The Pit? Is that what it was? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was doing the Pit on like, Torment 2 and Torment 3. And even the other people on my team, like you played with Kevin Babbage, that dude's a psychopath. Like he does so much damage and he's so good at that game. He was dying on those activities, and I would go to res in the middle of enemies and they were like, don't do it, we're surrounded by enemies, you're gonna get killed. And I would literally res him and my health would be fine. Like I was like totally okay. So that build was, the only problem is it doesn't do a ton of damage because I really was sort of like doing the tank role, but for high level activities where the goal was to stay alive. It was cool. I did that mainly. And then I threw in a little bit of Eagle just to make my movement a little faster. I like the teleport. And then I also had an exotic that made all of my dodge rolls.
Exotic.
So the teleport.
It's not Destiny, my friend.
Whatever. What are they called? What's the unique?
Legendary unique.
Legendary or unique piece of armor that made all of my dodge rolls also the teleport, the Eagle teleport. So I had like 5 or 6 of those available to me. And so teleporting around, throwing poison all over the field, healing myself constantly. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. It's very cool. So for those listening, that's the nice thing about it is you can kind of build any way you want. And the class encourages you to do that. And as Travis touched on, there's new legendaries and uniques, not only for the class, but in the game overall too. So there's a whole bunch of new legendary aspects for Spiritborn specifically. And then there's new aspects on legendaries and uniques for just the game. And so once you start to combine all these things together, some really crazy combinations start to come out.
Especially when you add rune words to the mix where you can add like a trigger and an effect. Like every time I dodge roll, this thing happens, or anytime I drink a potion, this thing happens. And you throw that in there, and like the end game build crafting is insane.
Yeah. I think people are going to have a lot of fun with it. You'll see in my Jaguar class build that I had one aspect, this crazy unique rod. So this weapon where like I forget how it was described. It's like 2 paragraphs long, the aspects. But basically what happened is it would, whenever I max out my vigor, which is your mana or whatever, right? You would do this ultra big attack, but I was replenishing it constantly. So I was basically just constantly doing that attack. But at the same time, anytime I used I gained vigor or something, it was good reducing my cooldowns. And so I basically would have no cooldowns on anything, including my ultimate. They would just refresh like constantly. So I would just be on my controller, like holding X and A together and then clicking the trigger like endlessly, just doing this the whole time because I'm just bouncing all over the place. So it's just it's really, really cool. I would say the one thing, if there's one concern I have, maybe not really a concern because it does make sense in theory, but the loot change they made where once you get to Torment, basically, all the legendaries are 750. That's the item power now, right? It's a flat 750. And then there's the only thing above that is Ancestral, which is 800. So literally once you get to Torment, there's only 2 item levels, 750 or 800. That's it. And obviously you can get different rolls on all the stats, and you can get the Ancestral ones that have the star abilities, which give you a bonus, but it seems a lot more flat in that regard. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
Well, I think it's flat in terms of items, which I like, because my least favorite part of Diablo is when you get a really good item, but then you go up like one more difficulty level and then all of those items are bullshit and you just have to like throw them away. And so what they've done instead is then you go to Torment 2, you go to Torment 3, and you find items that are the same level, but they have better affixes. And then you grab those affixes and apply them to the armor or weapons that you already have, or grab the ones that you already have and then put them into the new stuff you find. And so I think there's kind of a cool interplay that I personally prefer, where you're searching for the perfect role, right? And I don't know if you saw this in the Dark Citadel, which is the raid activity, which we also need to talk about.
Yeah, we will.
But there's that item that lets you reset all of your affix slot stuff, right? So if you already like improved or re-rolled a certain slot on a weapon or armor twice before and you hit like the cap, they let you reset that on certain weapons, so you don't ever like brick a weapon or brick an item.
Yeah.
Which and you have to spend, I think it's like the maximum amount of that Dark Citadel. So it does require you to like grind that raid activity a little bit if you want to do it. But that is such a good. I bought a whole bunch of those scrolls because I did the raid a couple times. And it'll basically allows you to like try again on a weapon if you re-rolled certain things and it didn't go your way or whatever. So
awesome.
I think they made the system a little bit more flexible and a little more friendly to people like me who like playing the game but don't want to dedicate like 900 hours min-maxing every point only for my character to get deleted next season. Like, it's just not going to happen. And everything that they've done is like make the leveling go by faster so you can get to the end game quicker, make the end game quicker, a little more flat so it's not constantly you're just grinding to get to the next tier for no real reason. It's like, all right, now I can kind of see why you do it. And yeah, I mean, we'll see how it turns out, because obviously there's going to be people who put like hundreds of hours into this. But my initial impressions are that like it's better for players like me, which I imagine are like the majority of players, right? Like people like Hogue that aren't. But it maybe is a little worse for people like Kevin, who is a psychopath and plays hundreds of hours every season. But also, Kevin told me that isn't true. Like when I played with him, I was like, "How does this feel? Does it feel like it's a little more casual for you?" And he was like, "No, this is sick." I was like, "All right, cool." So maybe they found a good middle ground, but I definitely understand your concern with like previously it was like the sky's the limit. Like every time you went up a tier, you could get even better items and stuff like that. I just didn't like that it made me toss out the items I had grown attached to, and like I basically have to change your build, like our 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 build, like our.
What the hell? So we had some technical difficulties there with Travis. Oh my God. Yo, someone Someone is gonna have to cut that and mix a beat on top of it, because that was absolutely that was absolutely epic. I have never seen that on a live show. I don't even know what to do right now. He's coming back. Hopefully he's not still performing. Are you
I didn't hear what happened. I was just talking, and then I looked at you, and I saw the expression on your face, and I was like, "Something is wrong with my stream right now. I don't know what, but something is wrong." So I'm gonna have to watch that later because I didn't. To me, it was just I was still talking, and you were laughing, or you were confused. Yeah.
You're gonna be in for a treat, because that was something. At first, I
Like a
thought it might have
robot?
been. No, basically, you dropped the hottest hit of 2024.
Oh, sick! Really?
Yeah. You'll be remixed into
auto-tuned myself?
some
Sick.
Diablo videos for sure. I thought it was me at first. That's why I looked at chat to see what was going on, because I thought something had broken in my connection. But basically, right when you said like a build, it just started repeating over and over. So all it was you going like a build, like a build, like a build, like a build.
Hell yeah, dude! Hell yeah, dude! That's sick. Yeah, that was on purpose. By the way, I'd like to thank the Elgato Corporation for the hot remix. Elgato, y'all
like a build
should be in prison. I would love it if we could like a build a prison and put you in it. I think that would be great.
Oh my god, dude. That caught me completely off guard. And then I didn't even know what to do, because I'm literally solo at that point.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
If it happens again, I'll be able to join again quickly. Like I said, I think I figured out. You ever work with a technology that's crappy, but then like after a while you understand its crappiness and like the things that will break it and like how to fix those things? I'm at that point with Elgato where like I know the list of 50 things that will make things go terribly wrong, and I know how to fix most of them. And so when stuff like this happens, I'm like, all right, it's this dumb thing Elgato does again. Man, I really need to. Man.
I told the audience someone's got to cut that, add a beat to it, and we'll throw it up. We'll throw it up on the channel. Seriously, I'll put it up as like a short. That was classic. By the way, BLT says, "What's up with my mouse, dude?" Oh, God, everything's breaking today. BLT says, half asleep right now, and that scared the crap out of me.
Also, great name. I now want a BLT.
BLTs are solid, man.
They're solid. Yeah, really good.
What
kind of bread you do with BLT? What's your preference on that?
Say it again.
What type of bread are you rocking when you have a BLT?
I'm a sourdough guy, man.
Yeah.
I love sourdough.
I think sourdough is the correct answer, but I'm not sure if that was just like an SF thing because that's our bread, or if that's.
Well, I mean, I'm from there, so I grew up with sourdough.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Sound off in the comments, especially the guy whose name is BLT. I feel like his opinion.
Yeah, let's ask BLT.
Yeah, BLT. What do you like to be eaten with?
Gentle Stone. I'm not accepting rye. That's an unacceptable answer. I apologize.
Look, we got a member of the tribe there in the. we got a member of the tribe here. Shout out for rye. I didn't expect that. There we go. Hey.
Oh man. Where the hell were we? We were talking about build. We were talking about builds apparently. Yeah. So where were we? Loot. Let's talk about. So you mentioned the raid, which is called the Dark Citadel. And it is, as you jokingly put it, kind of like Diablo's first raid, but in a like Fisher Price sort of way. Meaning that it is a raid, it is a co-op activity from 2 to 4 people, but it is very Diablo-esque. It is really just kind of moving, doing very simple activities to then kill a whole bunch more demons. It's not super puzzly. They try to put some puzzles in there, but if you kind of think about the chaos of Diablo and an ARPG, the puzzles are incredibly straightforward. So I had a good time with it. I appreciate jumping in with some of the IGN crew to play that the last night the servers were live. So we were last minute editing that footage into the review, but that was it was a lot of fun. We happened to get the bug. So by the way, if you didn't hear, Travis, myself, a bunch of people in the review period, there was a bug they fixed for launch. Sorry. but there was a bug where you could get like 500 times experience. So you would be playing, and all of a sudden your Paragon levels would just go through the roof. You'd gain a level like every 5 seconds. And so a bunch of us were like really high Paragon level or max Paragon level. And so we played the raid at Torment 1 and basically obliterated it. I mean, we just ran straight through it. So
I will say, as somebody who played it at a lower level with a group that was purely doing it like for the first time and figuring it out, it is both a lot more challenging and a lot more fun when you're playing it with like a properly leveled, or I guess lower leveled character, because we were power leveling through the bug. That raid is super easy if you are Paragon level 300 and you're still only on Torment 1, which is the lowest difficulty you can access it and all that stuff. But I hope that most people experience it blind, because that's how I experienced it the first time. And figuring out the mechanics and stuff like that is pretty fun. They are like baby's first raid, very much. Like none of it is like particularly sophisticated stuff, but like figuring out the steps involved to like, you know, bring somebody's shield protection down by grabbing keys and unlocking doors and that sort of stuff is pretty compelling stuff. It made me feel a lot more engaged with Diablo, which is a game I've mentioned here many times that I fall asleep to because it is so repetitive and kind of just like meditative. This definitely isn't that. It's like it forces you to lean forward a little bit. That said, none of the mechanics are so complicated that I think they rise to what most people expect from a raid in terms of how demanding it is on you to like solve puzzles and put 2 and 2 together. You definitely can like figure it out. But Ains, yeah, your experience was way different than mine because you were way over leveled for it and you were playing with people who had already gone through it, and so they were just like smashing it. Ebonthus was in that group with you, and he said that like he didn't even really understand what was happening. He was just
revived him a few times because he was like he only just got the Paragon so he could do it with us, and he kept getting splatted while me and I guess it was Kevin were rocking.
Yeah, and there were more deaths when we were playing it. We wiped a couple times to the like the instant death mechanics. If you failed to do the mechanic, that happened to us a couple times. We had people going down fairly regularly, and I was being like our revival tank. And so when you play it at proper level, I actually think it does have a certain level of challenge, and it is fun to figure out the mechanics. I recommend everybody go in blind and figure it out because it's super fun to do. But yeah, it is like very clearly the first draft of like what a raid might look like in Diablo, because the mechanics are very like you're never at a point where you're like, well, what do we do here? I have no idea. You're like, I get it. Yeah. Especially if you're familiar with raids. You're like, yeah, I get it. Find the key, bring down his shield, teleport to the other world, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, pretty fun.
Yeah. It's very fun. And the even in the review period, the rewards for completing it are really strong. And they said that they are improving them for launch. So it's going to be a great way, I think, once you get to those torment levels and you're looking for materials or loot, what have you. It's going to be a great way to not only play with friends, but to play your end game activity and loot up. So a couple of things that funny. So Silent says the Soulsborne is funny. It's Spiritborn might be the class I missed in the main game. Have been a little disappointed by the Hunter. Stick with the Necro, and now looking forward to more flexibility. Yeah, I think you'll find it in the Spiritborn for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing I really like about that class. Like a build is that you can if you want to build into the Jaguar and you're like, all right, I'm going to be super aggressive and I'm going to jump around and kill a bunch of stuff, but then you get into an activity where that's just like not working for you. You're like, oh, I'm doing the Uber Lilith boss fight and I just can't stay alive. Rather than switching to another character and then grinding all the way up to endgame, you could just be like, all right, I'm just going to change my build to the Gorilla and completely change how my character class operates and become like a big old tank that has shields and invulnerability and thorns. And so that flexibility, I think, is really good for players who don't want to be like my friend Kevin and build, 5 or 6 different classes per season because they're crazy. And so, yeah, I think that is really good for players like me who just want to be able to mix things up a little and try out different types of play styles without re-rolling an entire new class and starting from zero. So I think it's really cool.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to. I'm going. What are you doing at launch? I'm gonna go 100% gorilla at launch and give it a. I want to try it out.
Yeah, I think so. I think I might go Jaguar because dude, Gorilla was so good too, though. So the cool thing was once I got to level 300 in Paragon, I got to change to each spirit and just try it out. So I tried like a level 300 Gorilla, level 300 Eagle, and the eagle was the only one that didn't really connect with me. I saw a lot of people in the Discord saying that was their favorite. So I'm sure there's a right way to do it. But when I was in that class, it sort of just felt like gimmicky, like I was teleporting around all over the place. But like Jaguar, Gorilla, and Centipede all had amazing like stuff that I could see myself building into. I think I'm probably going to be doing a hybrid though, because the thing I found is that one of the ways to do the Spiritborn class is to choose a primary and a secondary and make your primary like the main thing you go into, but then have a secondary that helps supplement that. And I could really see like Jaguar and Gorilla going together super well, just because one gives you tank and thorns and barriers when you do damage, and then the Jaguar just lets you teleport around the world and smash people to pieces. So it's cool, man. I'm not sure. I haven't decided. I could also just do Centipede again. Like I really like Centipede. I could just see me going down that.
That's what I said. If Gorilla doesn't, if I don't vibe with it, I'm going right back to my Jaguar.
Dude, honestly, I think Gorilla will vibe. I was not expecting to like the Gorilla because I was like, oh, it's like all about barriers and thorns. That's kind of lame. But like, dude, you do mad DPS, and it has a very monk feel because you're punching things. You're doing like it kind of feels like Jade Empire, type of stuff. So you're like punch somebody and it takes down half their health bar. The rate of attack is slower, but you're just like punch, dead, punch, dead. It's very I don't know. It kind of clicked with me. I only played with it for like a couple hours because I think you were in chat when I was just like switching to different classes.
I was. We were doing the raid. Yeah.
But but it was very eye opening to see how they each played. But you were right about the Jaguar. Like that class is nuts. Like the teleportation mechanic where you just.
That's what. Yeah, you should see my clips, dude. It's bonkers. I do think the review period, like people are like, oh, it seems a little underpowered. I'm like, you just haven't found the right items yet. Like, which is true of most of Diablo 4. Like once you get the right aspects and right kind of setup, most of it gets pretty crazy, which I like. Elu says the locomotion, the twist, the Macarena, it's all led to like a build.
Hell yeah, dude.
You're creating that new craze. That's what it is.
Sometimes you gotta.
Oops. Oh, great. Now I got to try and find that too. I hit the wrong button. So I wanted to mention the Crass Under City. So the other like new thing in Vessel of Hatred feature is a thing in the new hub city called the Crass Under City. You unlock it through a quest, and it is a timed thing that you can do a co-op or do solo. But basically, I can't find it to save my life, dude. But basically what this is like you start with like 90 seconds. It basically the timer's counting down and you have to continually kill like elite enemies and little things in the levels to keep the timer going. So you just keep slaughtering, the timer goes up. You have to go through 3 levels and then you fight a boss. And if you get to the boss before time runs out, you fight the boss, you kill it, and then you obviously get rewards for doing that. But I really like that. It feels like a very focused way to grind. I mentioned in my review that mode, I could see myself just putting on some headphones and just jamming to like as I'm leveling my character and grinding because it's just a lot of fun and it's like instant satisfaction. It's kind of like the Hell Tides a little bit, but it's even more focused than that. It's like you're in a dungeon, you have elite enemies everywhere, you kill them, you get to keep playing, and it's just it's really, really fun. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, my one criticism with the Crass Under City is that it is rogue, like procedurally generated dungeons, but they all feel identical. Like I did that Crass Under City so many times and I could not tell you. At first I thought maybe they weren't different. Like maybe it was literally the same dungeon I was running through again and again. And then I actually paid attention and I was like, oh, okay, they are slightly different. So I hope there's a little bit more variety added. I know there's like modifiers and stuff you can throw into the the torch, which I think changes
offerings
a little bit more significantly. But that was my one criticism of it is that they are very samey running through them again and again. They kind of have like the two things you do, but they were very fun, especially running through it with 4 people where we were just like dunking on these poor demons and just flying through it, and then ending the event with like 400 seconds on the clock and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely destroying. So that was fun. Honestly, us being over leveled was a lot of fun. I'm gonna miss that. Like everybody in the party being level 300 Paragon. Like what a crazy way to play that game. It was just fun.
I will say the world. So having the flexibility of the world tier. So now you have your 4 normal difficulty levels, and then once you get to 60 and beat level 20 of the pit, you unlock Torment, and then you have Torment 1, 2, 3, and 4. And having the flexibility to move between those is not only fun, because you can kind of move up or down once you unlock more than one Torment, right? If you just want to smash stuff easily, or if you want to challenge yourself, but also like I think that the ability to kind of affect your own loot drop rate in that same sense is really good too. It kind of gets to more where Diablo 3 was by its late game, where they added all those different hell levels, right? It's more like that than the world tier at launch. So I think that's a good addition as well. So
yeah, really cool.
Yeah, I like it.
I remember I interviewed the team at Blizzard like maybe 6 months after Diablo 4 came out, the base campaign, and I was like, are you going to add more tiers? Like, how many are we getting? And they were like, nah, probably not. And I was like, I don't believe you. I mean, that's like an inevitable, like very easy one to, just extend people's playtime. So I think they made the right choice. I think it's better with more. I think being able to go up to Torment 4, it just also extends your progression and kind of makes you wonder like, what could I find in there? Or am I going to find, ancestrals with 4 greater affixes on it? Like what's going on?
And the mythic uniques. Yeah,
mythic uniques. There's cool stuff you can get there, which is really I think it's worth it. And honestly, once you get to Paragon 300, which obviously we're all going to do, it's not that hard.
No, I think if you have the right build, you'll be able to do it. I do think there's a good gap between the Torment levels, like 1, 2, 3, 4. I think they do, like 1 and 2 don't feel the same. There's a noticeable difference between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. So I think
I do wish I would have been able to feel how the leveling felt when I got to Torment 3 and 4, because by then I was literally max level on like all my characters, so I never really got to like experience how quick you level when you're on Torment 3 or 4 because I was at max.
And how quick we level without the stupid bug.
Exactly. I want to know. I mean, I didn't encounter the bug until after I was level 60, so I'm confident that the leveling system from 1 to 60 is really good. It's really just the Paragon is where I started hitting that bug where I was leveling like 50 times every 10 minutes. So
it's pretty good. It's definitely faster than your normal levels. So it felt good. I didn't get the bug until Paragon 72. So nice. I remember it because I was like, how the hell am I jumping up so fast? And that's
the
when
bug,
you told
by
me
the way, was just a specific potion you drank.
Yeah. One of the opals, right?
Yeah, one of the the opals, whatever.
Seething opals.
Torment. Seething opal of Torment.
Yeah.
So they fixed it, but like Kevin and I were doing the Realm Walker event and grabbing those and then just like drinking them and not knowing about the bug. And then we were like, dude, we are leveling like crazy. What is happening? Yeah. And then we figured out what it was and we told all of our friends and then they did it and everybody was just level 300 like instantly. It was like, oh, cool. We're all max level. And so Hogue is making fun of me for, again, saying that something in a game is not that hard. I am, of course, caveating that with it's not that hard if you're level 300 Paragon, which like that's a huge time investment where if you manage to get to the level 300 Paragon, you probably deserve to feel like it's easy. But again, that is not how most people are going to play the game. Most people are going to take forever to get to Paragon 300 if they ever do. But yeah, I was we broke the game on accident. I wouldn't have done the bug on purpose if I knew that it was a thing. Yeah, just happened. It happens sometimes when you're playing new games. I will say another reason I gave this game an 8.
Yeah.
And not a 9. Well, because the base game I gave a 9. I really love Diablo, and I think D4 is amazing. But this is the most unstable version of Diablo I've played. And I do not think that is going to be fully addressed when the game comes out tomorrow. The reason I don't think it's going to be fully addressed is because they had their list of known issues, and I encountered a ton of issues that were not on that list. And I think even if they do have a list of known issues, a lot of times they don't get all the way to fixing them in time for the base game release. So I had crashes, I had characters getting duplicated so that like two copies of the NPC would be running around the map. I had a couple times where a boss just gained an immunity shield for no reason and it couldn't come off no matter what I did, and I just had to like quit out the activity, leave the dungeon. Just stuff like that. There were a bunch of bugs, and some of the bugs, as mentioned, were in our favor, like the fact that we accidentally triggered 10 times XP gain or whatever, just accidentally blew up the XP grind. But most of them were just annoying. Ains, I know you ran into issues where you kept having crashes during the campaign. There were a lot of issues, and so I think people are probably going to be a little surprised at the level of instability in this expansion, because it is a lot worse than any of the other stuff they've put out. Like the base campaign was a lot more stable. By the way, even when it was in the test server, it was a lot more stable. And I would say the same of all the seasons as well.
Yeah, I don't think I experienced as many issues as you, but I definitely experienced more issues in this than I did with D4, even in the review period for that one. In fact, at one point I was walking to talk to an NPC and I think I messaged you, I fell through the floor. And I was like, I don't think I've ever fallen through the floor in an ARPG before. That was weird.
Yeah. It's very odd.
There's nothing I could do about it. You can't jump or get out of it. So I just had to shut down and start over again. I had a quest that I couldn't finish either. If you like touch this one thing before touching another thing on the quest where you have to place items around, it would lock you out. So then like I had to start over, but it puts you all the way at the beginning of the dungeon again. I was like, oh. So
I also had a quest that refused to complete, and it was kind of it wasn't a like campaign quest, but it was like one of the core quests that they expect you to do for part of progression. And so I just never finished that on one of my characters. I just couldn't.
Yeah.
So good stuff happened.
Just a couple other things I want to mention. So while we're on the campaign, so obviously no spoilers. On the campaign, I think what it is, Travis said it concisely a little bit ago, but it's shorter than I imagined. And I think my bigger problem with it is, I wrote this in my review. I said, by the time it gets good, it ends. There's a lot of just going point to point to point to point, fighting no-name bosses. Really, I think there's only 2 meaningful fights in the expansion. The last one's good, and then there's one other one that's kind of story related. But the rest of it is pretty nondescript, and it just kind of left me flat, because we end Diablo 4 with Neyrel, and there might be some slight spoilers for the core game here, but with Neyrel traveling away with the Soul Stone. And it's like, oh, cool, we're going to go to a new region and we're going to find out what happens. And you've got this big bad, who you're dealing with. And you kind of touch on all that in this. You definitely deal with it, but not in a satisfying way. It kind of just builds up, it ends, and then it's like, well, I guess I'm going to wait for the next expansion now, which they clearly set up at the end of this. So It just felt, as a campaign expansion, it just felt a little flat for me.
It feels like a prologue to a different expansion that's going to be a lot cooler and impactful. Yeah. Like, you kind of end right where you began in a lot of ways with this expansion, where you're like, all right, we're still waiting for the big thing to happen where it's going to completely shake up Sanctuary. That doesn't happen in this expansion, and it was kind of surprising to me, because I really thought this was going to be like the one where the gloves come off and we're going to be doing some crazy battles, but not really.
Yeah,
you get closer, but you don't. Yeah, it sort of felt like we're still in a holding pattern, waiting for like the big expansion. And I do like that we got some answers, especially to I think a question that Hogue asked on this show a couple weeks ago. I think we have an answer to that at this point. It's see what people think.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I don't know, because Diablo 4 I really liked at launch when we reviewed it, and then when I played it again, the campaign, I liked it more the second time. So I don't know if I'm gonna maybe like this more the second time. We'll see. But at least right now I was kind of mid on it. And then the other thing about the campaign,
there's no question, I think, whether you like or dislike Diablo 4's campaign, there's no question that the base campaign moves the story along a lot farther. Like there are significant world-changing events to that campaign, right? And I don't think you really get that here.
You don't. No. And along those lines, I was hoping for enemy variety. I don't know about you if you mentioned this, but like the enemies they add for the new region are one, they're not even great to begin with. They're like sludge monsters. And you still seem, even in the new region through the quest, you're fighting enemies you've already fought in the main game primarily. And it just
I did not
like,
talk about that because I cannot tell the difference between any of the enemies in Diablo. I really cannot. It's like there's some skeleton or demon thing, and he's just, oh look, he turned into a puddle of giblets. Like that's basically all that's my relationship with enemies. I could not tell you more than like 3 or 4 enemy types in Diablo, and I definitely couldn't tell you what they do, like what their powers are. I just blow through them.
I just smash them. Yeah.
Yep.
The last thing I want to mention on it, unless anyone has any questions, about the Mercenary. So I really liked the Mercenaries.
Really cool.
The companions in Diablo 3 were garbage. I never used them. I didn't like them. They didn't do much at all. The mercenary system in this, I really like. First of all, there's 4 of them. There's a quest line for each of the 4 of them, and I was surprised at at how good those quests are implemented, how well they're implemented. I thought it was going to be like, go here, get this mercenary, and then they can join you type thing. But it's actually like multi-step. They have some stories and backgrounds to the characters, which I think is pretty cool. And then once you get the first one and you can unlock the all 4, you get the den, which is like this new waypoint you can travel to where all 4 mercenaries are, and you can kind of set them up. You can build skills on each of the mercenaries and list them or unenlist them if you don't want to use them. And you can also kind of set this if-then statement, if you will, for reinforcements. So like I had a second guy, like if I was about to die, he'd come in and put a bubble shield over me, like out of the blue, you know what I mean? So I think that system's pretty cool, and I like that they give you extra rewards as you level them up as well, because the mercenaries each have their own leveling system too. Yeah. So I think it's really well implemented.
It's also a system that you can't really engage with if you're playing with multiplayer. So the thing I really like is that it gives players like, I actually played Diablo 4 mostly solo, and I know players like Hogue do, and I think this is a mechanic that's made for like the Hogues of the world.
I wrote exactly that in my review. Yeah, it feels really like you have like a comrade with you properly.
Yeah,
playing solo.
Yeah, and you get to build a relationship with them, and you get rewarded for leveling up and keeping them by your side. And then when you max out eventually one of the characters, then you can switch to another one and learn kind of their story and their powers and that sort of stuff. And they can complement your builds depending on what you're doing with your build. And it's really cool, and it's really useful for players who prefer to play solo because it makes you feel like you're not in the adventure alone. And I think that that's huge. And I do play, at least during the review period, I was mostly playing with other people, but it was nice during the periods where I was alone to feel like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, this character kind of made me look forward to my solo sessions more.
Agreed.
Cool.
I really like. Did you have a favorite of the 4?
I like Aldkin,
the kid, the demon kid,
the demon child. Yeah.
He was pretty cool. I tried him. My favorite was, I think her name's Variana, the Berserker Crone woman.
Yeah. I didn't play with her that much, but I liked her story the most.
Yeah, she had. Exactly.
Her recruitment quest was really cool.
Yeah, so they're really fun. I think, like Travis said, for the people out there that like to just play Diablo 4 solo or don't play in a group, I think you'll like the mercenary system. So, anyway, we get tomorrow as we're talking, we get Diablo 4 Vestal of Hatred. It's finally here. Goes live. Like I said, you can check their social account for goes live. I know it's 7 a.m. Eastern, so whatever that is for you, it's a kind of worldwide thing. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be on tomorrow night with the crew and starting to build my gorilla. So man, I'm pumped to get back in. And I think more than anything, me and you grinding the hell out of this for 8-9 days, getting our access wiped, of course, as we've talked about before, but already looking forward to jumping back in and doing it again speaks volumes to the quality of it. You know?
Yeah, I wasn't sure how hard I was going to go when it came out. Just because I played a ton and I still want to play like Star Wars Outlaws, but apparently I'm going to be making guides for this. So I'm going to be back. I'm going to be back on the grind during the week.
Yeah. So like I said, I will have a guide going up tomorrow for launch on Jaguar. that you can check out. I think it's a fun one, and I show you some of the stuff that's important about it. But definitely, I mean, there's going to be lots of us who are in this period who are putting out things like Travis 4, Centipedes, and Gorillas. And if you're into, into checking those things out, I'd appreciate it. By the way, before we move on to topics, just a shout out here. Obviously, we're running a duo show today, a little bit different. If you could like this, share it out, do the usual kind of rounds on both channels. That would help a lot, just to get us out in front of more people. So appreciate you. By the way, Rob Frawley II says mods need to block anyone talking about Skull and Bones in chat. I agree. I'm going to make Rob a mod right now so he can start handling these people.
Sweet.
So anything else about Vessel H you want to mention before we move on to Ubisoft and the chaos going on over there?
I don't think so. I think we got it all.
Okay. All right. So yeah, let's talk about Ubisoft a little bit. So we have talked about Ubisoft, I think, quite a bit on this show, generally speaking, because I think, they've had a lot going on, a lot of releases and other kind of major news. But also, obviously, Hoag's, Skull and Bones jokes aside, Hoag's a pretty big stand on it. We just had Outlaws release, and Shadows just got delayed to February, as we know. This week, we heard from Bloomberg, first reported, I believe, that due to the kind of financial trouble that Ubisoft has found itself in, that Yves, the CEO of Ubisoft, is talking with Tencent for apparently buying out the rest of Ubisoft and potentially taking the company private. Now, what this looks like in reality and what would shake out of it, obviously TBD, we don't know. But a couple just points that jumped out in this conversation that I pulled out. So Ubisoft, which I wasn't aware of actually. So Ubisoft today employs over 17,000 people. For perspective, EA, Electronic Arts, employs about 11,000. Take-Two employs about 7,500. And 17,000 actually more from what I read, and I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but more than PlayStation and Nintendo combined, Ubisoft employs, which is kind of staggering when you think about it. On top of that, there was mention, sadly, to the Hoags of the world, there was mention that Skull and Bones was a very costly endeavor, which should be no surprise, as Travis and I have talked about. We played that game several years ago, and multiple teams over several years making that game, and it underperformed. And as we've heard here in the past couple weeks, it seems that Outlaws has underperformed as well. So it seems like they have maybe bloated a little bit internally, jokes aside of their games. They've bloated a bit in terms of a company. Their games have bloated. They maybe didn't have the right scope, right direction, right kind of people in charge of keeping things on a tight kind of delivery schedule. And it just seems like a bunch of factors culminating in a bad financial situation for the company at large. And sadly, a lot of people, good people that we deal with at Ubisoft, I'm sure could be facing some trouble, which is, again, as we always say, not good to hear. But what do you think here, man? What do you have any kind of thoughts, any insight that I didn't mention? Is there, anything we haven't discussed, I think, on this perspective that, you want to add?
I definitely don't have any insight. This is like my least favorite part of the industry, is having to worry about like what big corporations are doing and how that's going to affect the games that I like.
Yeah.
I will say there's generally a rule that 3 flops and you're bust if they're 3 flops in a row, right? If you have 3 expensive games, I think Skull and Bones was probably strike 1. And then apparently Outlaws, I think maybe is the second one. But Assassin's Creed Shadows being delayed is either really bad news for them because that means they're afraid that one's going to be the third, or it's good news because it's going to come out of nowhere and make their company feel like it's doing a lot better. I think it'll probably do the latter. I think Assassin's Creed has a lot of clout just as a game.
Yes,
and
it does.
Like just casuals buy that game, which is huge. If you can get casuals to buy your game, you can make a ton of money, and they always do on Assassin's Creed. So I think Ubisoft going private is not a terrible idea. I think them doing it with Tencent is a terrible idea. But Tencent's already, I believe, is an investor in the company. I think they have some sort of existing relationship. So maybe
I believe that's right.
Maybe they feel that expanding their relationship with Tencent could help insulate the company from other, would-be buyers, because I know that family, the family that runs Ubisoft, is very wary of letting people into their circle and getting basically taken over, which, usually you grow a company to the size of Ubisoft and you expect eventually, you'll lose control of the company, but that's not the end of the world. It's kind of just part of what happens when a company matures. But I know that they've not really taken that path, and that they don't want to. And I think that's fine. I hope they continue to get to do what they want with the company. And maybe taking it private is the right call, but I don't really know here, man. I hate talking about this stuff. It's just, they make some good games. I hope they get to continue to make good games. I hope the people that work for them continue to have jobs. And two big expensive underperformers in a row, not good.
No, and it feels like Hogue mentioned in chat they need some structural changes, and I think we all agree there. It just feels like there's been some where there's smoke, there's fire type issues with Ubisoft internally for a while. And I know they had the internal harassment allegations, and they did an internal investigation, and they got rid of apparently some toxic executives. This was a few years ago now, and it seems like some of that maybe wasn't taken care of fully or properly. And then, it just seems like bloat. That's an awful lot of people to employ globally for a company that really has some strong IP strength, but as you said, it feels like they're fumbling around a little bit. So I don't really know. I hope, to your point, I hope they find a way through it. I hope that Shadows lands. We've talked about this. I was in the producer presentation of Shadows at Summer Game Fest. We were all in the room. Everyone I heard coming out of there was excited. It looked fantastic. It seemed to play well. I was very interested in that releasing next month. And so I hope more than anything that they're just taking these few extra months, which, when anyone who knows in kind of application development, once you get to about mid-November, the year's basically over. You're not doing a whole lot through the holiday season, right? Productively, just so much PTO and time off. So the delay from November
you could do
to
hackathons. Yeah.
Yeah, but the delay from mid-November to
Mhm.
February is rather small. It's not like, there's not a whole lot. So it feels just like a polished delay. So I hope that's the case. I hope it comes out smooth, bug-free, or relatively bug-free, and performs well. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Couple not funny comments, but Elu says, I fully believe that Ubisoft could solve all their woes if they released a new 2D Rayman game. I completely agree. I think that is the solution. And that's really all we
that
need.
would be their third flop.
I don't know financially how it performed, but obviously the Lost Crown was a fantastic game for them critically.
I can't imagine it was a big seller. I mean, both the genre and the IP, and but I mean,
But how much did it cost to make? That's not a 1,000-person team.
I'm talking three. So, if you have three big games that you put a lot of money into flop in a row, that has historically been the stuff that can break even big companies. But I don't think we have to worry about it with Ubisoft. I think they'll be okay. I do worry that they're going to have to go through significant restructuring that will involve layoffs. That is definitely a real fear.
I mean, that's almost inevitable, I think, at this point. It's just, I think the question is more of how many, what the percentage is going to be. So that's tough. By the way, Gentle Stone says, all I know is Riders Republic is hella fun. Yes, it is. If you missed that, Gentle Stone, Travis and I were review buddies on that one too, and I think we both gave it an 8, if I recall correctly. That was a very good game, and they've continued to add content to that game. It's got like full-on skateboarding. It's got all kinds of other things in it from when we first played it now. So anyway, on Ubisoft, I don't know, man. I hope we get some news soon that is positive. I don't know what that would entail, but it doesn't. There's going to be more going on with Ubisoft in the coming months for sure. I think. What do you think? Do you think they try to push through and let Shadows release to see if they can clean this up on their own?
I think so. I think they wait and see how their big bet lands before they do it, and before they make any big move like that. And I would be willing to bet that internally they're going like, hey guys, we got to do this right. This is make or break, which is probably part of the delay.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Well, yeah. Wishing everyone over there the best. Like I said, I've been fortunate to go to Ubisoft events. I know people that work there, and I mean, everyone I've worked with at Ubisoft has been really, really good people. As Travis and I will say all the time, the vast majority of the people you speak to or work with in the industry are great people. So it's just it's a turbulent industry, is I guess the word I would use at times. So. All right. Let's see here. So, Shattered Space. Let's talk a little bit about Starfield. So,
Okay.
Starfield releases last year with a mountain of hype behind it, as we talked about at the time, and released critically pretty strong, right? I think it was in the low 80s, if I recall correctly. Someone can correct me here. But I think that generally speaking, it was looked at as not the game that was the world-changing game that I think, for right or wrong, the expectations are placed upon it when it comes out of Todd Howard's Bethesda Softworks, right? And whether you agree with the greatness that I think of, like when I think of games like Morrowind and Fallout 3 and Skyrim and those games, whether or not you agree with that or not, it was pretty clear the expectations for Starfield were sky high. Obviously, that was compounded sometimes with some of the bad actors in the community because Xbox's purchase of Bethesda.
They also rose their expectations to sky high by releasing a ton of videos saying that it was going to be the greatest, RPG of all time. Like they did it to themselves, just to be fully clear.
100%.
They set their own expectations about that.
Yeah, I mean, they did the same with Fallout 76, and we know what happened there. Now, of course, that's been a success story since.
I know,
but so Shattered Space releases, and by the way, we bet on this last week. We bet on the review scores for Shattered Space. Hogue said 77, I said 79 and jinxed myself, and then you said 81, and it came in at a 57. It is sitting
on Friday, because we said we were going to check on Friday or something like that. There was some like specific date we had to check it on.
Oh well, it's this morning I checked. So yeah. Well, so
I'm sure Hogue was the winner regardless.
So he's a winner by a mile.
It seems like I'm going to be buying Hogue. What is it? Little Caesars, or he had some terrible pizza in his neighborhood. What was it I'm supposed to buy him?
He said Little Caesars and I think Domino's are both headquartered there. Okay. Is that what he said?
So I think his pizza is going to be a lot cheaper than mine. That's the
yes. By the way, our last pizza bet, I ordered pizza for Travis and D on when did you message? Yesterday morning?
I think it was Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon. You're like, D demands pizza, and I was like, all right, I got this
D
one.
was like, we've been eating super healthy, and we opened the fridge and looked at all of our healthy food, and she was like, dude, I can't do this right now. Like, it's just too much, because she's really stressed out. So she was like, can we just get something that's terrible for us? And I was like, actually, Ains and Hogue owe me pizza. And so I texted Ains, and he hopped on it. He got me some pizza. Very good.
Really and wings.
And wings. By the way, those wings were bomb. They were really good. So,
you're right.
Yeah.
Hold on a second here. Did we? I've mixed this up, so sorry for the pause.
It wasn't
Alex. No, Alex of all people corrected me, so thank you, Alex. I have Shattered Space in my notes right next to Veilguard and missed it.
I knew it wasn't Shattered Space. I would have never guessed 81 for Shattered Space. That's crazy. Yeah. Okay. Thank God. When you said Shattered Space, I was like, really? What was I thinking? I said 81 for Shattered Space. That's crazy. Okay, great.
So
thank you for pointing that out.
Strike that from the record. Okay. But anyway, so Shattered Space sitting at 57 on OpenCritic right now, with only 42% of reviewers even recommending playing it. So this is obviously not where anyone would want to see Shattered Space as the first expansion to Starfield. And I guess I haven't played it, so I know I do talk to people who enjoy Starfield and are really liking Shattered Space, and we're going to have our review out. Peter went through this for us. Our review is going live tomorrow. I won't say what he gave it just yet, but this obviously critically is not where anyone wanted this to be. And I guess the question I wanted to pose to you, because we talked about this a little bit with when Starfield released, is the Bethesda model engine / game design mechanic, is it dated? Is it divisive? Is it becoming more niche than it once was? What is it about these Bethesda RPGs like Starfield that just didn't vibe with the seemingly vibe anyway with the audience on a grand scale like maybe they once did?
I think Bethesda is always best when they're leading the future of RPGs, and I think they just fell behind that curve a lot. Like,
I agree.
Starfield to me doesn't feel like the next big leap forward in RPGs, but like I could say what you will about Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, but they all felt like a moment in RPGs. Even Oblivion, when Oblivion came out, like that was like, it was supposed to be a launch title for the 360 that I think got delayed for a little bit, but like when that came out, it was like the biggest RPG you could play on the new consoles, and it was huge. And Morrowind, I was very young when that game came out, but for me, it was like a huge leap forward in what I expected from games and thought was possible in games, and just how much you could do in that game was crazy. And same with Skyrim. Like Skyrim went a different direction, but it definitely felt like, okay, well, they're changing with the times. By comparison, Starfield felt like a throwback to a type of game that everybody loved that maybe doesn't work with today's audience. And especially when it came out so close to Baldur's Gate 3, an RPG that felt way more in kind of the vein of like, okay, this is, I mean, I have problems with Baldur's Gate 3, so I'm sort of arguing against myself right now, because, but a lot of people felt like Baldur's Gate 3 was that, right? That it was, oh, look, this is what maybe the future of RPGs could look like. And I just don't think Starfield rose to that occasion. I think to some extent they rested on their laurels and did what they knew they were already good at, and didn't really pave the way forward to something new. That said, I don't know if Starfield is a big enough sample size to know for sure if this is the type of game people don't want, because there's a lot of other problems with Starfield that I think you could also point to as maybe the reason it didn't resonate as well, right? There's a lot of problems with like the NPCs and the story, and the sections where you're floating around to get your superpowers, and the big open world procedural areas that feel super empty, and problems with loading times in space. And I mean, you could point to, I think, like 25 problems that maybe could have been the straw that broke the camel's back on why this didn't like hit super hard. And so it's very possible that they change nothing, they make Elder Scrolls 6, and it blows up, and everybody thinks that Bethesda is the best company in the world. That is very possible. And it's possible that just Starfield in particular didn't hit for a wide variety of reasons. But this isn't a game I've ever thought was terrible. I just think that it's good, not great. For me, it's always been a 7. This expansion looks like it's more of the same, except for it's smaller, and people, I think, were even expecting more because they thought it was going to significantly up the game, which it didn't do. And I think, a just okay game gets a just okay expansion is the headline for me. You know what I mean? Like it kind of is exactly what I expected, but I don't think it's a bad game. I just think it doesn't move the needle on the world of RPGs, especially when you have Baldur's Gate, Cyberpunk. Hogue mentioned that's another one that I think
Elden Ring,
probably more worthy. Elden Ring, yeah, I would argue that's a very different audience, and not really the same. It's not really the same type of RPG that people think of when they think of a Bethesda game. But I think there's that, and then I think there's the specific problems with this version of a Bethesda RPG, the Starfield, the unique Starfield problems of it that I think get in the way. Really, my biggest problem with this game is that none of your decisions matter at all, in no sense. Like they just don't. Like they point at these junctures where like a big decision seems like it will affect a bunch of things, and then if you actually go back and you make the other decision, the outcome is almost identical in every way. And it seems from the reviews I have read on this expansion that it is more of that in this, which really blows my mind, because I'm like, dude, it's an expansion. Like if there's any point where you could really play around and have big decisions that impact the outcome. It's this type of expansion where it's like self-contained, right? You would think that they would do that, but apparently your decisions don't really matter in this as well, which bums me out.
Yeah, so I think a lot of what you said plays, and I've got a whole bunch of comments from our audience to pull up, including a couple from Hogue. But yeah, I think you're right. I think my biggest thing with Starfield when I played it, and I put in 40 hours right at launch. I enjoyed it. To your point, again, not a bad game. It's a good game, but it's just not what was expected. And I think there's other games that are doing that better. In fact, I think there's other games that do it better that have released even several years ago. I know it's sometimes not fair to compare to what is arguably one of the greatest games of all time, but I would much rather spend time in Witcher 3 than Starfield. I mean, it's not even close. And then you talk about games like Cyberpunk. Hogue mentioned Cyberpunk 2.0 came out similar times. You had Phantom Liberty releasing for Cyberpunk last year. Phantom Liberty was excellent.
Still haven't finished it. Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah. So good. And your decisions actually change the ending and characters and everything else in that one.
Yeah, dude. But Baldur's Gate, like, say what you will about that game.
Baldur's Gate.
There's stuff I have problems with it, but dude, your decisions matter so much in that game, at least in the early part, apparently. I never finished it, so apparently at the end it matters less. But like while you're playing it, you feel like your decisions really have major impact.
Well, and Baldur's Gate just, obviously kind of ran away with the awards last year, right? So I mean, it's just the timing of it. It just, to your point, I guess the easiest way to say it is the Bethesda model feels antiquated. It doesn't feel like it's doing anything forward. So Gentle Stone says it's flat characters and uninteresting in recent quest design.
Yeah, so that's like these are some of the like Starfield problems you could point at where maybe you could argue, Ains, to your point, like when you say the Bethesda design feels antiquated, maybe we wouldn't feel that way if Starfield was a better game in other aspects, right? Like if your decisions really mattered and the characters were interesting and the quests were interesting and the combat was better, maybe we would feel like, oh, actually this still does work. I just think it's hard to separate the Starfield problems from like the Bethesda design problems. And I don't, there's just a little bit attached at this point.
Well, there's nothing, I think what you just touched on there too, is there's nothing it does exceedingly well. There's not one thing I can point to and say, I play Starfield for this.
World building, maybe? I'd say the world is pretty interesting.
Yeah. Interesting more than something like Baldur's Gate 3 or other worlds.
Well,
I guess
Baldur's
arguably,
Gate 3, I would definitely say it's more interesting than Baldur's Gate because the D&D universe is awful. But
yeah, but I think you're a little biased in that regard.
Though?
Cyberpunk, yeah. So Shush says, Shattered Space feels like longing for better times, aka Morrowind, but not having enough of anything to pull it off, which is an interesting comment in the sense of, maybe they're trying to build upon something in the Bethesda model with Shattered Space, but it's too narrow scope to do that.
I love Morrowind, but that's crazy to say better times. I just think we have so many better games than Morrowind.
But Morrowind in its period, far more
but to refer to that as better times is crazy. I know it just isn't. Like, I love Morrowind, but no.
Planet Yavin said yes to all when I was talking about the core issues. I thought Gamefire says I think it's about creation engine and need more like the ID engine, which is a different comment. I think one of the things we've talked about, like we did on Cast Co-op, is around the creation engine or that Bethesda model of everything has physics. You can kind of pick up everything. You can manipulate everything in the environment. That brings with it some unique aspects to the game that I think many enjoy, including myself. But it also brings with it some detriments, and those detriments can be felt in other ways, right, within the game. Hogue wanted to point out certainly Larion and Persona team are bleeding edge. Don't be surprised if Dragon Age has similar issues. Now, we know Hogue has been down on Dragon Age consistently, but I think he's got a fair point here in the sense of we very could, or it's very possible we see a BioWare game in Dragon Age that doesn't push the bar forward and may not meet modern expectations for what a RPG should be, especially after Baldur's Gate 3 did everything we saw last year.
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance that Veilguard feels a lot like Andromeda, where it's like, we liked this thing, but you didn't really change enough, and it kind of feels like an off-brand, like, fan episode of this thing that we already liked. And there's a very real danger there. There's also a chance that they'll surprise us. I think that studio is talented. I think they know how to do it well. So I'm on the higher end. I mean, they have to get an 81 or higher. So I'm really rooting for their success.
No,
Also,
they have to get exactly a 79. So you have to buy.
Yeah, I don't know about that, man. You're pretty screwed. Yeah, I guess I'm glad I'm not reviewing it. That'd be tough to think. I'm giving this game a 7. I guess now I have to buy somebody pizza. That would be upsetting.
Well, and it's another IP too. It's another release, I should say, not IP. Well, both. That has that. There's the weight of the world of expectations on it because it's the first major BioWare game in a long time. There's that core, I won't say cult-like, but there's that core fan base of Dragon Age, which is very deep in the sense of they adore Dragon Age through and through. And then now, of course, you've got the bad actors who want it to fail because it's got aspects in it, that some people don't like, and it's just a weird place for that game to launch. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're gonna. I'm a little more optimistic about that game. Just the people I know who have played that game or seen its previews and stuff are, they are all sold on it, and so I don't think that would be for nothing.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I think they saw something they liked. And also this game has been worked and reworked, and they've thrown it out when it wasn't working and started over. And they've done a whole bunch of stuff that makes me think that like they really want to get this right. Some people look at that and go, oh, well, that's just proof it's in development hell. I say that it's proof that it's in development and that the people making it really care about the product and that they're not just pushing it out the door. And so I'm a little more hopeful than most people.
Yeah. Funny time for the comment because Hogue said about Starfield, it's that people don't have optimism or hope. Starfield is about those things. I don't think that's right, Hogue.
Such a terrible take. Such a terrible take. He always tries to turn it into this. It's the people, it's the children who are wrong. No, dude. The game is. I love optimism or hope, and I like that Starfield is about those things. What I don't like are the laundry list of 50 things that Starfield does terribly. All right.
We got a versus Hogue from a remote versus.
It's just such a what do you call it? Like bailing them out, like letting them off easy to say that. Like, clearly it's the children who are wrong. And
I was gonna say, like, I'm overly positive on a lot of games. Like I just find ways to enjoy games that others don't typically. So the fact that I look at Starfield and I'm like, it's fine, it's good, but it's got a lot of faults in many ways. Like, I wanted to love that game. I got the collector's edition. I went all in on that game and it didn't really grab me.
No, I think, he's responding that bare minimum, I find optimistic storytelling boring and I'm not alone. Hard to disagree. I love optimistic storytelling. I think honestly, I'm more bored by like the world is bad and we all have to be grungy edgelords. Like that bores me way more than optimistic storytelling. That is not the problem with Starfield. Starfield has many problems. I don't think its optimism is the reason people don't like it. And I just think that's such a bailout for that game's problems. I mean, it just has, the optimism isn't the reason I hate floating around in the same circular room or spherical room trying to get my powers. The optimism isn't the problem with like my decisions not mattering in every quest line in that game. Like optimism has nothing to do with all of those problems. So I just think you're totally off the mark there.
No surprise on this panel. Between Hogue and Travis. We have a comment from Rick Davis. Shout out to Rick. What's funny is I was a massive Bethesda Game Studio fan and extraordinarily disappointed in Skyrim and especially Fallout 4. I too was disappointed in Fallout 4. Skyrim, though, it's a great one. Starfield was much closer to what I was hoping from them than either of those games. That's a take. I think he's probably in the minority, but that's great. Like, I love that you love Starfield as much as that. So that's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I get why people wouldn't like Skyrim as much because it feels like they took the game a lot more mainstream and made it less like nerdy and less RPG. They kind of simplified some stuff. Fallout 4, people have a lot of well-founded problems for that. I don't know that Starfield gets closer in any of those regards, though. I'd be curious to know what exactly about Starfield you like more than those others, because I would say it kind of is a lot of the same. I guess it's a little nerdier. I don't know.
I don't know either. Hey. Whatever you like. I guess my next question I wanted to ask, and this is kind of for our audience too, is so you are Todd Howard, your Bethesda Game Studios, your Xbox now, all that leadership that goes into that and all the funding. Obviously, everyone knows the next game is Elder Scrolls 6. Obviously, when you talk about weight of expectations, outside of maybe Grand Theft Auto 6, weight of expectations with Elder Scrolls 6 will be the top. This is a game that's been talked about for years. They released that ridiculous flyover trailer like 6 years ago now for no reason whatsoever. What a waste of time. So you release Starfield. It doesn't really land as the industry changing game in any sense of the world you hoped it might be. You have these potentially antiquated ideas or design methodologies. We know Elder Scrolls 6 is in what they now call full development. What do they do here? What learnings do you take from Starfield? How do you ensure that Elder Scrolls 6 is the genre defining or premier game that they hope it to be for everyone involved?
Yeah, I think what happened with Starfield might actually be really good for Bethesda Game Studio and for specifically Elder Scrolls fans, because I think there's a really good chance that if they didn't have Starfield, the same thing that we're seeing with Starfield, where people feel like the game is a little behind the times and they have a lot of problems with the way it's designed. I think there's a chance that would have happened to Elder Scrolls 6 if
Fair.
they didn't have Starfield. And so I kind of view it as like, well, Starfield was a new IP. They were able to take kind of some unique risks. And now they saw all the problems that fans had with what they built. And so now they have a second opportunity to make another game in an IP that people really adore. And so it will have an audience no matter what. And they have an opportunity they know exactly what they need to change, right? Because they've seen all the feedback. They know exactly what has to be different in Elder Scrolls. And so I'm sure they have a lot more data than I do about like what people are telling them. Like, we think we don't like this mechanic, or we don't like this about the engine. We think that the engine doesn't rise to the occasion. We think that it feels a little antiquated and an old school in its design, and we don't like that, etc. And so I think they have a ton of data and feedback to make Elder Scrolls 6 great. And I think that if I'm Bethesda, I'm probably counting my lucky stars that the big underwhelming response was to Starfield and not to my flagship IP. Because Starfield is new and the sequel can be amazing. They always have a shot at redemption. But if you get Elder Scrolls 6 wrong, that is a body blow that I don't know you can. I mean, that's huge. That would be huge.
Yeah.
That would be way worse than what happened with Starfield. So
agree with everything you just said. So I hope they take all of that feedback to heart and they really think about the Elder Scrolls universe and world. And there's so many things I could point to that I think, for me anyway, would need to be to make Elder Scrolls a success. And let's not forget, we're talking about a release that's probably 2027. You're still years away from this game. Hogue says we may not be alive for ES6. Very
Speak for yourself, old man.
Google Mendel stop developing ES6 in 2027 and let ChatGPT 9 make it. Oh God, I hope not. Planet Yavin says seamless exploration, zero loading screens, overhaul the narrative writing team. This is just the start, and I tend to agree with them or them. I think the most important one there is overhaul the narrative writing team. I think that's the biggest thing for me, and you guys can tell me what you think. The biggest thing for me that I have not really been interested in, whether it's Skyrim, whether it's Fallout 4, whether it's Starfield, is the quest design really hasn't done a whole lot for me. There's some cool things done in Starfield with some of the factions we talked about, right? I liked becoming a little sneak and a little thief, and those types of things are really neat how they incorporate those mechanics. But there is nothing engaging me to the characters in the universe like I saw at a CDPR's RPGs in Cyberpunk and Witcher 3. We heard a lot about that with Larian, with Baldur's Gate 3, and some of the characters there. I'm not an expert on Baldur's Gate 3. I'm just telling you what my friends said. So I just think they really have to be more engaging with the story, the universe, and the writing. Because even looking back at Skyrim on release, which I love that game, I find faults in those aspects of it.
Yeah. I'll say I would love it if the next Bethesda game had a great story. I don't think that's ever been their strong suit, and I definitely don't think it's what the single thing they need to nail for the game to be successful, because Skyrim was one of the biggest games ever with a bad story. Fallout 4, I think people were a little bit more critical of the story than Skyrim, but it still, I think, was a huge success not having a good story. And so I don't know if that's number one. I would love it. Again, I'm not saying that they should.
No, I don't think it's number one.
I would love it, but like number one is not that, right? Number one is people feel like the open world RPG is back and it's better than ever, and they're doing stuff that no other RPG is doing, and the scope and the ambition and all that is pulled off better than anybody else. I think that's the thing they have to nail, and I think that involves engine, technology, world design, just putting a ton of work into crafting a big open world RPG. I think if they can succeed at that,
that's interesting. Like, it has to be interesting. Like,
yeah, I mean, do you think Skyrim's open world thing is interesting?
It was at the time.
Yeah. So, yeah, for me, I really just think that they have to. I mean, obviously, yeah, it should be interesting, but I think the reason people buy Bethesda games is because they want to be on the forefront of like the open world RPG where you can do things you can't do in any other game. And I just think Bethesda releasing Starfield at the time that it came out, where there were other experiences you could point to and go, I mean, this is just a worse version of this RPG or that RPG, is the problem. And so I think they just need to reinvest in tech and do something that only Bethesda could do with their enormous war chest and very talented team, etc. I think if they do that, everything else is butter. Good story, that's just the cherry on top, right? Like I just don't think that they need it to be successful, because I don't think they've had it in other games where they have been successful. So I hope they do all those things, but honestly, the main thing is they just need to get back in the forefront of what they do, Western RPGs.
And I think, make decisions matter, right? To your earlier point, make some interesting things there, and give me the RPG aspects back. That's maybe more personal to me, but really let me build a character, and build into that, and have things in the world that apply to that. I just think there's so many aspects when I think, to your point, talking about gigantic studio loaded with talent, even bigger now, or maybe not bigger. I don't know what their employee count is, but they have the support, obviously, of Xbox and this gigantic organization. Put the resources in to make sure this one hits, because this one has to hit. If ES6 comes out and it falters or falls flat on its face, that's going to be that'll be interesting. I mean, that'll be a conversation.
That'll be brutal. I don't know if it's the death blow, but it'll, 2 games under the gun in a row. I have a lot of confidence that Bethesda is not going to let that happen, because I think the Starfield reaction is really all they need to like wake up. And I'm sure there were some people probably inside the studio who were worried about certain things about Starfield, who will now feel emboldened by the reception. And so I think they're the type of company where they're going to bounce back from this pretty handily. And it might require a huge investment in technology and the team. And yes, Elder Scrolls 6 is going to take 1,000,000 years to come out, but I think they'll get there. I don't think they'll see the reaction of Starfield and go, all right, let's make 0 adjustmts, plow forward with Elder Scrolls 6. I would be shocked if they did that.
Yeah, I agree.
That type of studio.
So let's have a little goof off for a second. Let's say we get Grand Theft Auto 5, according to Take-Two, still coming late next year.
We'll see.
But just for joke's sake, let's say we get Grand Theft Auto 6, not 5. Grand Theft Auto 6 late next year, and we get Elder Scrolls 6 in 2027. Let's, for the hell of it. When do we see Grand Theft Auto 7 and Elder Scrolls 7?
Grand Theft Auto 7 will be in 2032. No, wait. It took a decade from the last one.
They took more than a decade.
Yeah, 2037. 2037 for Grand Theft Auto 7. And Elder Scrolls 7 will be 2040. my guess.
Which, all jokes aside, and who knows, we'll be on Bitcast 4000 and I'll be in a wheelchair. But
and I'll
it's
be
kind of
bald. I don't know.
Hey.
Oh no, actually, I'll probably be dead for 30 years by then.
It's just kind of crazy to think about how long it could be till we actually see GTA 7 and Elder Scrolls 7. Regardless, so yeah, we'll see. I continue to be excited at the prospect of what they're going to learn from Starfield, and I continue to be excited at the prospect of how they continue to expand Starfield. Once we start to see those multi-year cycles of mods and additions and future expansions and everything else.
And if the narrative becomes that Starfield had to die so that Elder Scrolls 6 could be amazing, I think that will end up being like a blessing in disguise for Bethesda.
True. Yeah, 100%. All right, man. So this week, obviously, we've talked a lot about Vessel of Hatred, so we'll dive into that tomorrow. And Hogue will, of course, be back next week and be able to talk about that with us. But we also get Silent Hill 2 and Metaphor ReFantazio, which I did start to play the demo of. I'm still super early, even in the prologue. But I've said it before. I'll say it again. I love these Atlas games that just have so much personality built into literally every aspect of them. And I wish more developers would be more free-flowing with their creativity in games like you see out of Metaphor. You get to the city in that game and it is just it's just, oh my God, dude. It just blew me away. I'm just looking at it like, look at this. Like, it's so artistic and beautiful and just unique. And I love it. And I'm not, as you guys know, I'm not even the JRPG guy anymore. I don't really love JRPGs like I used to, but I appreciate everything they're doing here. And I can't wait to play more of that. The problem I have is it comes out this week when Vessel of Hatred comes out. And so I have no idea how I'm going to manage to do those two things. But I'm going to do my best. But I have really liked the prologue demo so far. So where are you? I couldn't remember because I know Hogue was all about Metaphor, but are you pumped about this one too?
Yeah, I'm gonna play this. So it looks like reviews aren't out yet, so I shouldn't say that.
No, tomorrow. Tomorrow is Metaphor reviews. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll just say everything I've seen about this looks like it's gonna be a good one. I like JRPGs. I have a lot of love for the Persona series, even though Persona 5 isn't my favorite in the series. This is ostensibly a new kind of IP and direction for them, even though it borrows a lot. So I'm really excited to play it. It is 100 hours, so my guess is I will be playing this in 2025 because I'm not stopping until Star Wars is done, and I've got some other games I need to catch up on too. So my guess is I'll probably play about 3 hours of Metaphor and then stop until next year.
That's probably going to be me. One thing I do want to point out, which I believe maybe Jez pointed out, but on Xbox because they have the marketing rights, it is a Play Anywhere title. So it's not Game Pass, but if you buy it on Xbox, you can also play it on Xbox PC. So you get it on PC and Xbox together, which is pretty cool.
Why do people care about the marketing rights?
Because people are dumb.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
who cares who has the marketing rights? As long as it's coming to all the consoles, I don't really care who's marketing
it. Exactly.
Is this one on Game Pass? Is that why people are upset?
No. That's why I just said it's not on Game Pass. But if you buy it on Xbox, you can also play it on PC. So that's kind of a cool bonus deal. Yeah.
Cool.
What was the other thing I was going to mention? Crap. I want to say, and Hogue's not here. I was going to have fun with Hogue this week. But hey, Silent Hill 2. We got the reviews for that. It's sitting at an 87%, tons of 9s, very, very, very positive reviews saying that Bloober Team nailed this one. They basically brought Silent Hill 2 up to modern day. They had some personal touches on it, which improved upon it, and it's extremely positive. And I want to say, damn it, give Bloober their flowers. I'm tired of people shitting on Bloober Team. They're not the top tier team in the world. They're not making these revolutionary games. They've done some good work. Okay. Medium wasn't fantastic. It was good, but Layers of Fear, come on, man. Blair Witch was good. I mean, they do some good work. Observer was interesting. They brought back a one of the goats of horror games. And apparently, I haven't played it, but apparently, based on all the critics and the people I've spoken to who have been in the review process, it's excellent. So
Cool.
I'm, give Bloober their flowers. Come on. Hogue says, I still don't like Bloomer. You meant Bloober, but I still don't like Bloober. But yeah, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, it seems okay. I'm excited to play this one. I mean, this one's been a long time coming. So, yeah, let's play it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to be trying to play it with my wife because we love horror, of course. So, and she's obviously never seen Silent Hill 2. I think I played that before we even got together. How long ago was that? 20 plus years. So I'm looking forward to showing her through that one. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I actually ordered the UK edition so I could get the limited steelbook because they weren't doing it over here in the US. So pumped about it, man. But big week, man. Silent Hill 2, Metaphor, Vessel of Hatred, and then it's just the rest of October is nuts as well. So it's going to be some fun weeks in gaming for all of us. All right, my friend. I think that's going to wrap us up for today. We're under 2 hours when Hogue's not blabbering away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when he's not talking about Skull and Bones every 2 seconds. It's nice. I like it.
So a couple things for me to mention on the season gaming side. So we'll be back, should be back to normal next week. We'll obviously talk more about Vessel of Hatred with Hogue. We'll talk about Metaphor. We'll talk about Silent Hill 2. We'll talk about everything else going on. Please check out our Vessel of Hatred reviews. It looks like my video review, it's doing great on the site, but the video review got the YouTube algorithm bug. It's not even like I logged it as me, like Portia on it. My own review didn't even show up for me as if it wasn't even on YouTube. I'm like, come on, man. So if you can check out my review, hit a like if you would. I'd really appreciate it. Tomorrow, my build guide on the Jaguar will be going up. You can check that out if you want to be in preparation for anything you want to build in Vessel of Hatred. Obviously, there's no spoilers. It's just talking about some skills and aspects you may want to look at if you're interested in Jaguar. And then Joe, Luke, and I did do a cast co-op this week, surprise, on Friday. You can check that out. We just had a lot of fun talking about Vessel of Hatred and other stuff. We got into a 20-minute conversation about horror movies. It's all over the place. So you can check that out if you want to. What you got, my friend?
Yeah, I've got my review of Vessel of Hatred, which you should walk on YouTube. I don't think you have trouble finding my video on YouTube, but you should also give Ains a click.
Yeah, you have a few, dozen more views than mine or something.
Yeah, slightly more. But yeah, that'd be great. You can go and criticize my pronunciation of Jaguar, and yeah, what have I got coming up? Unknown 9 eventually. I don't know if that's going to start this week. I'm going to put out some guides for Diablo 4. I do not know what those guides are going to be. I'm going to kind of figure that out tomorrow. And then I'm traveling to Parts Unknown to do a preview of a game that I think this panel is going to be super stoked about. It's a game we've talked about on this show before, but I don't think I'm going to be able to talk about said game for a month or so. So it'll be sometime in November that you guys hear me talk about it. But that's exciting stuff.
Is this one I'm aware of?
It is. Yeah, it's one we've talked about on Bitcast.
Yes. Okay.
Oh no, sorry. Aware of what I'm doing? No. Aware of the game. Yes,
the game,
obviously. Yeah. So that'll be cool. Yeah, that's me. It's a little slower. IGN's contractor stuff has slowed down at the end of the year, so I'm focusing on other stuff right now. But I've got a couple reviews coming up, a couple previews. Good times.
Nice. Hogue wanted me to mention, by the way, he's got a new virtual legality that came out this week. He's trying to get back to the regular side of content creation as well on his channel, so make sure you're checking that out. And we will be back in full force next week. So I think, like all of us, enjoy your gaming this week. It's a tremendous week for games, seriously. Dive in, whether you like Vessel of Hatred, Metaphor, Silent Hill. You've got pillars of all different types of games out there. Check them out. And as Gentle Stone says, I think we should all leave and go get a BLT.
Sounds great to me. Let's do it, dude.
It's a good plan. So have a good week of gaming. We will see you next Sunday. Thank you. Peace.